What is the best mouth harp for beginners? This is a great question. First, we're going to talk about what is the mouth harp, what is the jaw harp, the Jew's harp. Mouth harp, jaw harp, Jew's harp, guimbarde has dozens of different names. Doesn't matter what you call it. It is an instrument that has a vibrating reed or spring that you pluck and you play against your mouth. And what is a beginner jaw harp? Now, a beginner jaw harp, we're going to break it into a couple items to think about, or a couple of points of interest to think about. And one is, in a beginner jaw harp, we want ease of play. We want a jaw harp that you can pick up and on your first day start making basic sounds, and on those basic sounds we can build some music, some techniques in there. The next thing is going to be ease of play. Is it an easy enough jaw harp that you can play it? The next thing is going to be, is it going to be comfortable? I think I did ease of play twice, but is it going to be comfortable enough? Does it have a reed that has a productive vibration where you pluck it, it makes sound? And the last item is sound and price. Does it make good sound? Is there enough sound that you can actually make harp music, or does it not make any sound and you can't really make jaw harp music? Now, the first thing, or the next thing I would talk about, we can't talk about buying your first harp without talking about the harps on the internet that everyone gets fooled into buying. This is the Snoopy harp. It's sold under a bunch of different names: Snoopy harp, bluegrass harp, hillbilly jaw harp, shilling jaw harp, Civil War jaw harp, trophy jaw harp. And so many people buy this harp for their first harp. They buy it on Amazon or eBay or out of a music store or out of a novelty store or a toy store. And they get this harp. They go home and they're like, it's barely making any sound. It hurts to play. The reed is so stiff. It feels like a diving board vibrating, and it's transferring a lot of vibration into my teeth. A lot of people have also commented on this harp that it will break teeth. I do not doubt that. The reed on it is a very wonky, very hard vibration that I don't even want to play. If you buy this jaw harp, the gaps are too big to make proper sound. So if you get this jaw harp, don't dismay. Get a full refund on your Snoopy jaw harp, your bluegrass jaw harp, your hillbilly jaw harp. It's not you, it's the harp. Take that harp and just get rid of it. Another thing I'm getting comments on is people are going on Temu and other websites. They're also being sold on Amazon. These jaw harps here, I can't remember what it is exactly called. It's sold under different names. It has a reed on it that does actually vibrate well. This is an actual spring steel reed, whereas the Snoopy jaw harp does not have a real spring steel reed. But the gaps on it are too big. The embouchures are not angled or even sharpened. The reed is not profiled. It does make sound, but doesn't make good and sensitive enough sound that we can build much technique on there and play much song on. Now, we've talked about what jaw harps not to buy. Let's talk about 8 or 10 different jaw harps that I recommend to beginners. And the first one would be the Szalagi River. Now, this is a doromb made by Aaron Szalagi out of Hungary. And it's got a large enough frame that we can grip it well. This does have a bent trigger, so it is pluckable in both directions. And the reed on it is extremely flexible. So this is one I suggest to people often, because while not being the loudest harp, it is really, really easy to play. And there's a lot of good, clean sound there. And it's pluckable in both directions. So that is a good one at around $38. And probably in the future, prices are going to change as the tariffs and whatever else is going on in this crazy world. But yeah, Szalagi River. And there is going to be links down below in the description. I'll put a link up here to theharpery.com where a lot of these harps are featured. The next one I would suggest is the Nepalese rhombus murchunga. This is a smaller type of harp with a soldered reed, and oftentimes they are looped at the end there. Now, this is a smaller harp, so it will require, if you have extremely large hands, this probably isn't the harp for you, but if you have normal to small size hands, this is an entirely easy to play harp with oftentimes good melodic character. higher pitched, and it's got a smaller trigger that is really easy to pluck in either direction. I think these are around $25 to $28, including shipping. Really easy to play and decent to good quality sound. The murchunga out in Nepal. The next one I would put on here, there are a lot of harps made in Russia, a lot of Russian Vargan on from extremely affordable up to very expensive and ornate. These affordable ones I recommend to beginners, and even intermediate or advanced players can enjoy these as well, is the Pavel Pokin or P. Pokin Vargan. Sometimes sellers will get on Amazon and eBay and rebrand these harps as a Muaro, M-U-A-R-O, jaw harp or Jews harp. These are actually made by Pavel Pokin out of Russia, the Altai region of Russia. They're oftentimes referred to as the Altai khomus. And these smaller ones, I think, start at around $25, including shipping, and that's without a wooden case. If you get them with a wooden case, they might run you $30 or $35 or more, depending on where you live in the world, if you can even get them, or if there are tariffs, blah, blah. And then there are the larger ones, which are like $30 to $40. Starting off with the smaller one, if you have larger hands, this probably isn't the harp for you, but if you have normal to small size hands, they are really easy to grip with a 2 or 3 point grip. If you try gripping it in a khomus grip, that's not going to work. Always grip these with your 2 or 3 point grip. Very, very easy to play. Productive reeds with productive vibration, although they do have a little bit of extra stiffness there, so you can really bounce them fast. Vargan are like this, the beginner Vargan, are extremely easy to play, and they do tolerate some fast plucking, and they're sensitive enough to get good breath out of. The bigger ones are oftentimes lower pitched to, kind of bassy in overtones, and sometimes around the mid-range. And the bigger ones you can get muting out of. A lot of these harps you can mute as well. The next one, moving on, let's go over to Ukraine. These are a harp that I play quite often at my house, especially when I want to be quieter. Some of these harps are going to be louder, especially as we go up in price range. But these ones are the Vangerak Sun. These are the traditional drymba. Sometimes they're lower pitch, sometimes they're higher pitch. And these ones in particular, they're very easy to hold. They have extremely flexible reeds. Some of them are higher pitch, some of them are lower pitch. Some of them will be a little bit more melodic, some of them will be a little bit more rhythmic or percussive. And they have a hooked trigger. I think that's in Carpathian harps and some of the drymba from Ukraine. You'll see hooked triggers instead of bent or looped triggers. So on a trigger like this, you can pluck it toward yourself. You can pluck it inward toward yourself. But you cannot pluck it outward. If you pluck it outward, it will hook and pull. But I play these harps a lot, especially when my wife's going to sleep or my son's going to sleep, and I don't want to light the house up with incredibly rich, really loud sound. I can get down on these harps and do a lot of my techniques and really enjoy myself. I think the Vangerak Sun Drymba start around $30, including shipping. And they are a little bit more delicate, so you can't pluck them super fast. You can't pluck them in both directions, but you can get really good sound out of them. And oftentimes my son practices or attempts to play jaw harps. This is the one that I'll give him because it is more flexible. And it's also smaller. Next one, moving on, let's go over to India. This is one that I oftentimes suggest to people just because of what you get for price versus sound versus playability. These are the Bagvana hand-forged morchang. I think oftentimes they are without the tail. This one is just one with the tail. This is his base morchang. Gaps on him will be decent. Triggers will be taller, and it does have a tail. Stiffness, we're going to start going up a little bit in stiffness with this harp. This is a little bit more aggressively reeded of a harp, so just make sure that you can tolerate the extra pressure you're going to put. But this is probably out of all the harps we played, this is the loudest one so far. I see a lot of people who really enjoy plucking in both directions and techno style playing do like these. I've got a lot of good sensitivity there. So I think they start around $39 or so, including shipping. Now, however, with a harp like this, it's hand forged. There is oftentimes going to be some cleanup involved when you get a morchang like this. Oftentimes when you get them, there will be evidence of the forging, or sometimes a little bit of tarnish. Be sure to wash these with not hot soapy water, but warm soapy water, and then dry them off real thoroughly. If you want to remove any rust, you can take some light steel wool to the outer frame. Careful not to hit the inner frame, and sometimes they'll be sharp at the tips, so sometimes you want to take a stone or a really fine file and just dress the tips a little bit. But a good beginner morchang that I suggest for people, I don't often suggest the higher pitched morchang because they'll be really stiff, but the bass morchang are oftentimes a comfortable enough stiffness that most people or some people can approach it. So for a little bit of cleanup, you can get a good harp at a decent price. The next one, we're going to be going up in price. This is one that I play all the time, and I do suggest it to beginners if you want to spend the money. However, you don't have to spend $70 to $90 to $100 on a jaw harp, but this one, I really like it. It's really good fit and finish. This is Sasolka Rawbach Brummel from the Czech Republic. The maker is Sasolka, and in the Czech Republic, they refer to this instrument as the Brummel, B-R-U-M-L-E, the Brummel. It has a similar shape to the Zalagi River doromb. This is the Czech Brummel. Very tight gaps to decent gaps on these. Good balanced vibration. We kind of have like a long neck dinosaur shaped trigger here. These are fairly easy to play. There's a lot of, and these ones shoot right down the middle. These are what I call like a super ultra medium in D2, or right in the middle of the jaw harp pitch range. And we got that productive sustain and vibration where if I pluck it, it rings out for a long period of time. But I also got a well-balanced snap to it. When these harps go, I can play it fast, I can play it slow. I can get mutes out of it. I can get manual draws if I press the reed forward. I get my percussives. So you get a balance of a lot of areas of play on the jaw harp, and you got really strong to medium loud sound. A lot of sustain, a lot of sensitivity, good sensitivity of the breath, the breathing, and whatnot. So I do suggest that one if you can get them. However, you don't have to spend this type of money on a first jaw harp. Now, the last one on the list, you may or may not be able to get these, and they may be anywhere from very affordable to extremely expensive, depending on where in the world you live and what tariffs and what sanctions are in place. But Glazin, Vargan. The Glazin and Vargan range from like their lower price options that can be anywhere from $30 to $100 depending on where in the world you live, and they also might not be available, to jaw harps in the $50 to $125 jaw harp range, which are more ornate with a lot more decoration. And we'll just play a few of them here. This is the Glazin Scythian. This is the Glazin line where the Russian Vargan. These are a laminate or laminated frame where we have laser cut stainless steel frames, and then the front of it there is a sheet of spring steel that's been tack welded to it, oftentimes like with the Scythian, and this is a Glazin Mongol. There will be some laser etching. Pretty tight gaps on these. The Scythians are a little bit higher pitch. Now, these will be, all the Glazin are going to have a very saturated, very robotic feel to them. So they're not great for melodic play, but for percussive and for rhythmic and doing techno sounds and outer space, Glazin are really good. And that is due to most of these jaw harps we've seen before have symmetrical frames, where the fronts and backs, they form like a diamond shape or a square on their side. The Glazin jaw harps are flat fronted, so they're asymmetrical frame shapes. So the front will be flat, the back will be milled out, and in them you get pretty good sensitivity, like with the Scythian, higher pitch, sort of kind of buzzy, robotic. The Glazin oftentimes are playable in both directions. If you're careful, they do have like a cinnamon roll or spiral shaped trigger. Here is the Glazin Mongol, which is just like the Scythian, but longer and bigger and more flexible, so it's more bassy. Really robotic, really outer spacey. Being flat fronters, these aren't great harps to mute with. However, mutes are possible. With the reed sitting right in the front, you can graze the frame. Some other ones I would talk about are like the Glazin Lighthouse, Compass, and Wave. Now, these are going to be more expensive because these are the regular Glazin design. You have laser cut and polished stainless steel, and then you have a high carbon steel reed that is screwed to the front. Very tight gaps on the spiral trigger. Now, the reeds themselves, they can rust. You can see this one is corroded a little bit. The stainless doesn't tend to rust, but the reed, if not cared for in oil, can rust or tarnish. But the Lighthouse is probably, in the Glazin, it's probably one of my favorite of the Glazin basses. See, it sounds like this. Tons of sustain, very robotic. Not great for melodic play, but good for percussive techniques, for rhythmic breathing, for open close. Very, very sensitive. This is a pretty loud harp, especially for a bass. Then there's some of the more mid-rangey harps like the Glazin Compass. Anyways, we're going to wrap it up with that. And be sure to comment below, what jaw harps are you looking at for, or what jaw harps did you start out playing? Anyways, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more harpery. Make sure to keep your harps clean, keep them dry, keep them oiled. But most of all, be good to each other. I love y'all. Harp out. And I'll end playing this Zalagi River here in E. Adios.